Here we are, people. Here we are. Another live stream, another day. Living in these COVID times, living in these strange times. Here trying to figure out what's what. You know, Sifting through the information, trying to see when people are going to go back to work, trying to figure out when the vaccine is going to come, figuring out the whole thing of stimulus checks, just trying to figure it all out, whatever it is. We are here another day. I don't know how many days it's been. Shout out to all the people that's coming through. Shout out to the replay gang, people that watch this in the replay. It's crazy. A lot of people are worried about the virus. They're worried about COVID-19. Melanie, appreciate you. You got your check. I won't say whether or not I got my check, but yeah, there's been some things out there, so people are getting their money. Spend your money wisely, though. I say spend your money wisely. They're saying New York State is actually on an extended pause. I just got a notification on my phone. I think at least until May 15th. So that's something like that. Michigan, what's going on? There's a lot going out there in Michigan as well, different parts of the Midwest and stuff like that. So why am I here today? Other than the fact that we're talking Pet Monster, old Canada, old Canada. Um, People are worried about the virus, and rightfully so. Many infected, many people dead. Rest in peace to those that are dead. Condolences to those people that are affected by the many losses that have happened and are continue to happen. And as far as that's going in different countries all over the world. It's not just the U.S. We forget that sometimes. But sometimes, the behavior of people, I would say, is the real virus. What's up, Iron Fire Horse? Appreciate you for coming through. Shout out to everybody. Hopefully, everybody and their families are safe. Sometimes I say this, and I'm not the first person to say this. Sometimes the real virus, is the behavior of people as far as hoarding, as far as how they treat the elderly. People having COVID-19 parties. Yeah, such a thing. COVID-19 parties, believe it or not, those things are happening. Some of them have even happened in my neighborhood. Not proud to say that. The young people feel the way that they feel. There are people that are resistant against, stay-at-home orders and stuff like that. There's questions of legality. I was talking to a friend on the phone, as far as martial law and stuff like that. The reason a lot of states don't want to go into martial law, and they're choosing to deal with it from a statewide way and not getting into it with Trump, because once you go into martial law, now you give up all control to the federal government and the military, and, they have to actually dictate and determine what's what. So a lot of states do not want to go into that. And I tell a lot of people, statewide, countrywide, nationwide, you do not want to go into martial law. So we'll leave that at that. That's a conversation for another time. But the reason I say that people's behavior is the problem is because, sometimes we're not taking stock of the fact of how our behavior affects other people. Now, I can go out there and socialize with people and just do things like it's normal and act like nothing's going on and nothing's new and it's all right and it's okay, but I can risk getting other people sick. I think we've gotten to the point where there are a lot of folks out there that have disregarded that matter. They said, if I get sick, I get sick. There's people that feel if I die, I die. And that's unfortunate. There are people, with price gouging. There's things going on, stuff like that. There's all these stories and things that we've heard. Now, to compare and contrast and to look at the other side, not to knock anybody for just the reckless behavior. There are a lot of people out there that are doing good things. There are a lot of people out there doing charitable things. There are people helping the homeless, helping the hungry, the powerless, the elderly. There are people out there that are doing those particular things. But I come to you to say that our actions, just like when I talked about yesterday, about, your decision making, that affects so many other different things as it affects when it comes to your money. So does it as the way that you treat people. That's what we get judged on as human beings. For those folks that are religious, we get judged on how we treat the people, not only that we like or that we care about, but how do you treat the people that are vulnerable, that are powerless, that are helpless. It's crazy. No one helping the homeless and poor here in any significant way. Unfortunately, that's something that happens. Iron Fire Horse. People do get pushed to the wayside. Folks do get disregarded. And I tell people out there, regardless of what state, country, province, locality you're from, always remember that, I mean, you could question or not whether they want us dead. You can get into that. But the thing I'll say to people about that, was conspiracy theories aside, you know, what do you want for those people that are less vulnerable? How do you feel about those folks? What are you doing to help? Even myself, I have to question, what am I doing? Am I doing it enough? Am I, really, caring or considering, the lesser man or the lesser woman or the lesser soul in these streets in these times, because our behavior does affect, they say it to us. Well, unfortunate, that's unfortunate, Iron Fire Horse, but even if folks don't care about you, you should care about yourself. And I had to learn to care about my community. You should care about your community. You should care about what's going on. You should care about your fellow man, your fellow woman. You should care about the community that you're in. You should care about the places where you live, the dwellings, because the things that we do now affect future generations. People forget that. How we interact now and how we deal with each other affects future outbreaks. So that's important. It can be a situation where you say, they don't care about me, screw them. So it's whatever, an eye for an eye. Some people feel that way, and that's when we go down a dangerous path, because people forget, we have these babies watching us. They have these kids watching us. We have these younger ones. Now, the way we act as a society, the way that we interact with each other in this time, in this pandemic, in this global pandemic with what's going on, that's going to be a template, or that's going to be an excuse for the youngins not to do. That's why I'm always prepared. I know I can depend on anyone. Well, I hear you with that, Iron Fire Horse, but sometimes it's not so much about depending on anybody. The question is, what are you doing? How are you treating people? Because that's what this live stream is about. This is what this conversation is. I tell people and I challenge everyone, to consider how you treat your fellow man, fellow woman. What's good? What's good, Yas Poet? I see you. Can't worry about the behavior of other people, but how your behavior affects others. And that's the key. And I think a lot of us forget that sometimes. Sometimes somebody may slight us or do something, or cut us off, or give us a bad word, or treat us a certain way. And we may feel like, hey, you know what? An eye for an eye, I would do it. I don't see people. I don't know what you see if you don't see people. Maybe you see souls. I don't know. Maybe you see dead people. Some people do that. I don't know. Maybe it's a sixth sense or something like that. But the point I'm trying to say, just like Yas Poet was saying in there, it is how you treat people. That matters. It affects not only this time, but the time to come. It affects future generations. Like, racism. Racism is passed down. I think me and Melanie had conversations about that in the past. Racism and bigotry and all that stuff is passed down. Injustices can be passed down like generational curses. Injustice, hatred, bigotry, homophobia, Islamophobia, all types of negativities can be passed through the generations, just like a virus. So that's why I say, in essence, our behavior can become like a virus. Our behavior can, like that. Yes, it was a great discussion, and maybe one day, one of these days, we get to have part two. I promise you, it'll be worthwhile. I promise you, it'll be a much bigger conversation. I don't usually do this. Lockdown has changed nothing in my life. Well, hey, I get that, Iron Fire Horse. Yes, Melanie, definitely when we get the chance, I do want to set that up and have that conversation. I think it would be beneficial. It could be a much broader conversation. Well, Iron Fire Horse, I'm sorry to hear that, but for me, this has changed a lot as far as how, the pandemic, different things that's going on. I've seen a lot of things from humanity, both good and bad, things that are concerning, that are troubling, that have me wondering. So it's one of those things where I say, I just try to throw out my reminders to people. I just try to let people know that, what you do does affect others, both good and bad. Of course, we live in a world of opposites. Just as there's some people out there that are trying to do right, there are always going to be people out there trying to do wrong. But as Yas Poet was saying, in the interim, or just previously, our behavior, it matters. How we treat others, it does matter. How you interact, how you karma. There you go, Pet Monster. Karma, it matters. This stuff comes back around to you. Even with me, there's things that I've done when I was younger that came back to me when I was in my 30s. What you put into the world can come back to you. Yes, it does. And the scariest part about all this and what's going on, at least especially from the negative part of it, the children are seeing it. They may not understand it. Sometimes they mimic us and they take the behavior and they pass it around, and it infiltrates society, and it becomes a part of their psychology, and they don't even realize it. It's been an extraordinary interest in watching people react to this form of psychological and, hold on, I got to make sure, psychological and sociological. What's the rest of I didn't see from a psychological, sociological standpoint. Yes, it has been interesting seeing how people interact, and the reality is, this thing hasn't even gotten as worse as it can get, or as bad as it can get. It can get worse. So unfortunately, that's just where we are. Another comment I'm missing it. Perspective. Yeah, there you go. If anything, this has provided perspective for me. This whole COVID-19 outbreak pandemic, has provided perspective for me. And from a perspective, I come to the point where, again, I reiterate, as I said in other subsequent, or previous live streams, it has made me grateful. It has made me understanding that you have to, count your blessings, or you should count your blessings. You don't have to count your blessings, but you should. You should be grateful for the fact that, you may have running water, lights, a place to sleep. Everybody doesn't have that. Everybody's not healthy. There's a lot of people dying. There's a lot of people going through it. There's a lot of people who are coming into this day that are sick that won't make it to the next day. I don't know if folks understand that. There are folks in your city, wherever you're from, so where they will not make it. And there are people that wish they had another day. There's people that wish they changed. There's people that wish, they just had another moment, maybe in later lives, can come back and not necessarily will. Yeah. Hey, maybe things come back to you in later lives. I don't know. But it just gives me a whole point, to the point where, like I said, okay, look, what can I do moving forward? And it's an individual thing, like Yas Poet was saying. I think he hit the nail on the head. It's an individual thing. I'm not telling you or anybody else, on this live stream, or anybody watching later, what you ought to do, what you have to do, what you should do. Everybody has their own decision as to how they're going to treat people, as to how they're going to interact with folks. But it is important to understand that sometimes the most negative thing that's happening or going on, and the most controversial thing, is your behavior. It is how you transform, an emotion into a decision, and you begin to interact with people in society. And sometimes we're judgmental. We look down on people. We push people to the side. We cast them to the side. We look at the socio-economic thing. Yeah, there's the commercial media side of it, where we're all alone together, slow to spread. There's the feel-good side of it. But a lot of us know this goes beyond the feel-good side. This is more than just the feel-good thing. I love to see the social media posts from all the favorite celebrities. I love to see, the politicians, paint a bright picture, or certain people try to deal with it. You sorry you have to deal with that stuff. Yeah, no, you definitely have to deal with that stuff, Pet Monster. And I try not to, depress anybody, but, it's a broad picture. It's a whole perspective. You see it from all ways, and like I said, again, I contrast it with the positive. You can uplift, you can motivate, you can do things to help. You can put yourself in the vein where you say, look, I'll do what I can to try to help those in need. I'll do what I can to help those that's less fortunate. I'll do what I can to try to stay positive and put positive vibes out there, and put positive messages out there. Those things are definitely necessary. You do as much as you can from the place that you are. You don't try to overextend yourself and go out of the way. I can't help the world, but I can help my little slice of the world. I can try to influence what I can. I'm maybe not, I may never touch millions, but at the same time, I can influence who I can influence. I can reach out to who I can reach out to. And that's both positive and negative. That's where I come from with that. Rock Truck, appreciate you. Christine, hopefully this lockdown will make people self-reflect on their past behavior and start to treat others. They expect to be treated. Exactly. Yeah. Thank you, Melly. Appreciate it. Thank you, Rock. Christine. It comes down to that, though. I mean, and I think a lot of people feel like, their impact or how they react with each other doesn't matter. It matters. It definitely does. I usually help the poor when I can. Yeah, no, it's like that, Iron Fire Horse. You try to help people where you can, how you can. We do our little part, whatever that is. Even if you pray for people. I remember, and I think Melanie could understand this. I remember one time I was in the church, and I was talking to one of these ladies. I was talking to a lady that frequented the church. I won't say a name or get into that. And I was asking her to pray for a particular person that she said had issues. And she told me she didn't want to pray for the person. She didn't feel it was necessary. But this is the same person who was telling me about how much money they donated, and how good they are, within the religious community. And I looked and I said, look, praying for other people or considering the other person is just as important as what you do yourself to make yourself look good. And I backed off of it because I didn't want to get too controversial, about the subject matter of what was happening, but it happens. And I think it's a time where, you consider your fellow man, so sometimes we lose sight of that because it's about self-preservation. Yeah, yeah, that actually happened, Melanie. It's all about what we do in our own world, not the big blue marble. Well, I won't say that part, Pet Monster. What we do in our world affects the big blue marble, but we start where we are. Like right now, I start from Red Hook, Brooklyn. The Red Hook West houses. That's all I can start from, and then it proliferates and it can spread. Maybe it spreads to Canada. Maybe it spreads to the UK. Maybe it spreads to Africa. Parts of Asia. You never know. Try doing that with no resources. Okay. Oh, that's a conversation the two of you are having. But like I said, these are things just to consider. I give things to consider. I'm not telling anybody how they ought to live, what they ought to do, how they ought to be. What I say is that these are things for you to consider. It does matter. It really does. In my neighborhood, we text our elderly neighbors. They go out for groceries for them and what they need. The little things means a lot. Yeah, no, definitely. The little thing means a lot. A little can go a long way. It's like Pet Monster was saying, a little bit of kindness can go a long way. You never know. You really never know. There was a quote from Jackie Robinson's wife, the baseball player, how he was talking about Jackie Robinson. And the quote goes, never underestimate, she was saying, like what Jackie Robinson said to her, never underestimate the impact that your life has on other people. And I think we lose sight of that, So it's crazy. And I say to you in this live stream, people watching in the replay, folks that may hear about it from somebody else, never underestimate the impact that your life, that your decisions, that the things that you do and say may have on other people in your sphere, in your circle of influence, in your building. You don't underestimate that impact. Sometimes we may disregard it. Sometimes we may think it's not significant, it's not relevant. It means nothing. And it means everything. You never know. Sometimes a smile, a gesture, or things like that. Sometimes you have to protect yourself because people do take advantage. Folks do scam. People do have issues from the past. So you take that in consideration. I do take that in consideration. I back off. I'm respectful. I make sure not to push on certain things. Seniors are well cared for throughout this as long as they are in long-term care. Well, you could say that there's issues with nursing homes and things like that. We hope and pray for everybody affected, especially our elderly, our vulnerable people with underlying medical conditions. You want to make sure that you're there for them. You want to make sure that you're safe. You want to make sure you're not crowding them at this time. I tell people, don't just go back and forth frivolously, not knowing whether or not you're sick or not. Different tests haven't been out there. Vaccinations may not be in sight anywhere, in the immediate future. So we just try to hold on. We have faith. We make smart decisions. We just be cognizant of the way that we treat other people, and that karma does go out there and it does come back to you. Sometimes it comes back to you a lot harder than you're ready to imagine or even fathom. It can come back to you, so I think y'all get the point. Like I said, I don't need to ramble on. I don't need to go on and reiterate. I don't know if there's anything anybody else wants to say. I don't know if there's any comments, any feelings, anything that anybody else wants to express, because if that's the case, then I'll probably skedaddle out there, give you a few seconds. I'm just grateful for the opportunity to be able to just do my part in my small way, however that is, to try to influence or try to say something positive and whatnot. I'm not perfect. I'm not claiming to be perfect, in any stretch of the way. I don't have all the answers. I don't even pretend to have a tenth of the answers. I just come from where I can. I just influence and do what I can from where I'm at. Eggman, what's going on? What up from Lockdown, Alabama? Roll Tide, roll Tide. So this is just my perspective, and Iron Fire Horse, you just see it from your perspective. What's going on? Linda Stevens, appreciate you for coming through. Mama Cat, wow, another Alabama. Roll Tide. I got Alabama in here heavy. Eggman, it's been a while. Appreciate you. Love you all. But like I said, as I'm closing down in this last minute, just be mindful. Just be mindful of the impact of your decisions. Understand that sometimes that could be the real virus. That could be the real thing that affects things in a negative way. How we treat each other as human beings. Don't forget to be human towards each other. Don't forget to understand the human condition, that we all are imperfect. We all have issues. We all need somebody to lean on. I crept around and don't talk a lot of times. I watch replays. I appreciate you, Mama Cat. I've been trying to go back and forth to your channel and whatnot. I appreciate you for coming through. I appreciate everything. I've been studying poverty and disability in society in Canada for 30 years. Well, we got a lot to talk about then. Ain't nothing wrong with that. It was since I was a kid. So, hey, it's all good. But with that being said, I appreciate all you folks. Love all you folks. Hopefully, your families and everybody is safe. Be healthy. Do what you can to make smart decisions. Look out for your fellow neighbors where you can. Watch out. Don't let anybody take advantage of you. But you know how it goes. Thanks, Rock Truck. Appreciate it. Iron Fire Horse, Melanie, Eggman, Mama Cat, Pet Monster, Monster Chick, anybody, Yas Poet. Hopefully, I'm not forgetting anybody. Shout out to the folks that watch this in replay. Love you all. Hopefully, you're safe. See each other next time. Again, stay healthy, stay safe, spread love. It's the Brooklyn way. I think that was a good live stream. You know, yeah, stay safe. Jesus is coming soon, people. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Sooner than you think.